And today we're going to discuss how police leaders can be more effective communicators. We're going to discuss this with retired Lieutenant Hank Levinson, who's a veteran law enforcement officer and instructor. This webinar, the Leading My Legacy project, is supported by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Since 2010, the Leading My Legacy project has trained more than 600 law enforcement leaders nationwide. The project offers a variety of resources on our website, iacp.org/leadingbylegacy. It also includes technical assistance opportunities, past webinars, and a list of upcoming Leading My Legacy trainings. Today's presenter is retired lieutenant from the Gretna, Louisiana Police Department, Hank Levinson. Hank is a veteran law enforcement officer with over 35 years experience and over 30 years as a certified law enforcement instructor. Hank is a recent addition to our Leading My Legacy team and has earned a master's in justice administration and a bachelor's in administration of justice. Hank, thank you for joining us today here. And at this time, I'm going to hand the presentation over to you. And again, anybody who has questions at any time, please just type them into the chat box. So Hank, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. What we're going to do today is talk about being better communicators, and I'll touch a little bit on why this is difficult for us, particularly in our roles as leaders in law enforcement. To get started, communication is the key to being a good, whatever role you're in here. Being a good leader, a good coworker, being a good spouse, a parent, friend, or a public servant. Those of us in law enforcement also fit into these other roles in some way, be it working with coworkers or your family, your parents as a parent, a friend, or we all are public servants. So it's important to understand why being a good communicator is so important, and we're going to look at ways is better. First, now that in law enforcement we have 4 different generations that are working, there's some communication barriers due to the general differences. As we all know, communication is driven by technology. For a lot of us, that absence of verbal face-to-face communication is something that is a little hard to get over. A lot of younger generation now likes to email or text. They don't have that much face-to-face interaction as many of us have over the years in our careers. One thing to look at and remember is that this is not a passing phenomenon. Society has moved this way. Technology has forced us to move this way. So it's not that texting or email or cell phones is a fad and it's going to go away and we'll go back to nothing but the face-to-face, but it's here to stay. So what we need to do is encourage dialogue between the generations and learn how each of us prefers to communicate and do what we can to make sure we're communicating those different styles with everybody, therefore making it better for each of us along the way. There'll be less misunderstandings, and we won't have someone thinking, well, he just doesn't communicate with me because I haven't seen him. He doesn't come to my office. We haven't, met for a cup of coffee. All he wants to do is text or email or use social media. That's what's going on today, and we need to recognize it. And it's an ever-changing process, so we need to be on top of it all the time. And since it is an ever-changing process, that's one reason why it's difficult for us to keep up with it and why we have difficulty in click the wrong slide. Difficulty in keeping up with it. Now, there's 4 basic methods of communication. We all know that. We learned that early on. We have reading, writing, speaking, and listening. It's the 4 basic ways, and even when you're talking about social media communication, texting or emailing, it still falls into these 4 categories. We're either reading, writing, speaking, or listening. Now, a lot of us think that we may do one more than the other. We may read more, we may write more. We do a lot of talking during the day in different situations. But actually, the one that we do more of is listening. And here's a breakdown of the percentage of time we spend communicating every day. About 9% of the time during the day, we're writing something. 16% we're reading. 30% we're speaking. So you think during the course of the day, as much as we talk to other people that we're coming in contact with, either by phone or face-to-face, it's only about a third of our time communicating, but 45% of our time listening. So throughout the whole day, just a little less than half of our communication is done by listening. So the other three make up the other 55% roughly. So almost half the day, we're spending our time listening. We don't realize that because it's just something that, for most of us, it just never comes into play, or you don't think about it. Now, having said that, 45%, that's our most used communication skill, is listening. However, studies have also confirmed that most of us are poor and inefficient listeners. So if you think about that, it's our most used communication skill. Almost 50% of the time, we're communicating by listening, but we're inefficient listeners. So if half our time is spent listening, but we're poor and inefficient listeners, you can just see from there why we have a problem in communicating. And during the course of the day, a lot of times we'll be talking to somebody or listening to somebody, or we act like we're listening, and whoever you're communicating with may get that feeling that they just don't care about me. They're not paying attention to me. They don't get it. They don't understand. It's because we don't listen well. And as I move forward, here's some of the reasons why that we may have trouble listening. Listening training is unavailable. If we look out there, there are some classes you can take on learning how to write better, learning how to speak better, learning how to read better, but there is no listening training available for us. And then our thought speed is greater than our speaking speed. And I'll give an example of that in a minute. But as we're talking, others are listening to us. There's other things going on, which causes us to be inefficient listeners. Along with that, as we get on in our careers and so forth, every year we get a little bit older. Our listening skills suffers as age goes on. And then it's hard work. Why it's hard work? Well, there's never been any training available for listening. It's just what I like to refer to as on-the-job training. Now, those four basic methods of communication that I mentioned a little while ago was reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Going to do a little exercise here, and just listen along with me, although I know listening is a little difficult. But if you think about what age the average person begins to learn how to read at a small child, it's about 3 to 5 years of age, give or take. Some maybe a little early, some a little later, just depending on the environment they're in. And how do we learn how to read? It's our parents that are helping us learn the alphabet and putting words together. If we go to daycare, it's our nursery school or daycare teachers that have lessons in school, again, learning the alphabet, putting words together, and learning how to say those words. And then with writing, it's basically the same thing. Learning how to write, again, is somewhere around the 3 to 4 age area, where we do that by maybe starting to color and trying to stay in the lines, and then tracing our alphabet letters, with crayons or the big fat pencils, if you remember as a child, or your kids currently use. That's how you learn how to write. And for some of us, it might be a little sooner. We all develop at different ages. It might be 2 years of age for some. If you don't get into nursery school or maybe have any formal schooling till pre-K, it might be 4 or 5 years. But again, somewhere in that vicinity. When it comes to speaking, most of us will probably say you start to learn how to speak at around the age 1 to 3. And you're doing that, you're learning that by mimicking your parents. They're getting you to try and say mama, say daddy, puppy, whatever it is. And at that early age, you begin to learn how to speak. So for those first three, the reading, writing, and the speaking, we do that somewhere between 1 and 4 years old, so to speak, is when we start. When it comes to listening, if I asked you at what age does the average person begin to learn how to listen, I've had some people tell me, well, in the womb or at 2 or 3, but actually you never learn how to listen. Early on, our parents or your nursery school teacher or somebody told you, you better listen to me. And we kind of laugh at that now, but thinking back on it, they never taught you how to listen. So that's why it's kind of difficult when they say, you better listen to me. Well, how do I do that? Because I've never learned how to listen. There is no training for listening like there is for reading, writing, or speaking. Evelyn would speed reading classes, or you can go to a writing class, that type of thing. But for listening, there is no training out there. We just had to do on-the-job training as a small child, and therefore that's one of the reasons why we're inefficient listeners. Now, along with that, as I move to the next slide, if I ask how many words per minute can the average person speak, if you're sitting in a meeting and the presenter is speaking to you, you happen to be at your agency in a staff meeting or roll call training, or you're at a conference someplace, the average person can speak approximately 150 words a minute, which seems, for some of you, you may have thought we speak more than that per minute. Others, maybe a little less, but the average person speaks about 150 words per minute to where others can hear it and comprehend it. Now, along with that, if I asked how many words per minute can the average person hear and comprehend, I've also gotten a wide variety of what that number is. Some say it's close to the 150, some say it's less than that. In actuality, if you see here on the slide, it's about 450 words per minute. So as I'm speaking to you at roughly 150 words per minute, those that are listening can comprehend and hear about 450 words per minute, or 3 times that. So what goes on when you're listening to someone speak? They're speaking at 150 words a minute. You can comprehend 450. So there's a lot of other things going on in the background in your mind while you're listening. If you think somebody may have come into your office, if you're a supervisor and say, Sergeant, Lieutenant, Captain, do you have a minute? I'd like to talk to you. And you look up from what you're doing, sure, come on in. What do you have? And they proceed to start talking to you. And because your mind can go 3 times faster than they're talking, your mind starts wondering, well, I need to go to this meeting. I have to do this. My son has baseball practice tonight. I have to stop at the store on the way home. All these other things and factors in the back of your mind come into play when the person is listening to you. And for many of us, quite often, you just are entrenched in doing something else and these other thoughts, and you just occasionally may look up and say, oh, okay, all right, that's nice. And the message you're sending to the person who's speaking to you quite often is that you really don't care, because they can sense that you're not truly listening to them. You're still reading the report that was on your desk, you're glancing at the computer, you're checking your phone for text messages or emails or whatever, and that, again, sends the message that, I'm not important to you. I came in to ask you something that obviously is important to me, but you won't give me the time of day to truly listen to me. So this causes some friction between us and coworkers or family members or community members, whoever it is that we may be speaking to, and it's because that we're not listening. Again, remember, we have never really been taught how to listen. So let's talk for a couple minutes on some ways to improve our listening skills. When you're going to be listening to somebody, particularly if they come up to you and have a question or have an issue or a problem, they're coming to you for a reason, so it's important to them, and they want your point of view and so forth. but try and anticipate the speaker's next point. Don't interrupt them. Quite often we do that because we think what we have to say is so much more important than what they're trying to tell us. So we don't take the time to truly listen to everything they're saying, so we'll miss some of what they're talking about. We may respond in the wrong context because we didn't really understand what it was, because we were anticipating our answer, but we need to anticipate their next point. Identify in your mind some supporting elements to what they're talking to you about. And then while you're doing that, make some mental summaries as you listen. Just some things in the back of your mind to keep you on track of what they're talking about. And then what you should be doing is concentrating on the speaker. Give them your full attention. Avoid fake listening, and that's what I referred to earlier as you kind of glance up, oh yeah, okay, all right, sure, and when they turn around and walk out of your office, quite often we might sit there and think, what did they really say, or I really didn't understand what he was talking about. So that is reasons to, for them to feel that you're just not paying attention to them and that you're not important to them. And when you think about that, when you have somebody that is important to you, or that you're working with, or family members, when it comes to communicating, it's so important for us. And we all work off of emotions, and they're going to get the feeling that, why do they even bother coming to you, because you're not listening to them. So we need to make sure that they get the feeling that they are important to you, and that you want to try and help them. You want to listen to them. So always be positive, concerned, and sincere. Again, don't fake it. If you think of coworkers, your boss, your children, your spouse, quite often this has happened where they get the feeling that you just don't care. And that's not what we want, particularly in our roles as leaders. We want to make sure we leave our legacy in a way that people will talk about us later on at some point later and say, he really was a good person. He was a great communicator. He listened well. He always had your best interests at heart, and he would always make sure that he paid attention to what was important to you. So he would help you any way you could. So let's. So we've seen ways to improve our listening skills, but the question still could be, how do we do this? First, we need to practice some active listening skills. And what I mean by that is, always give others your full attention. If they come in to talk to you, remember, something's very important to them that they need you. So put down what you're doing, put the cell phone away, quit the texting, turn away from the computer, put the book down, whatever it is, and turn to them and give them your full attention. You also always want to be open to other ideas. They may be coming to you with an issue that you've already discussed before, and you're quite often are set in your ways of the way you want it done, but just because that's the way we've always done it, or that's what you want, doesn't mean that there may not be another way. So we have to give our full attention and listen to them, be open to other ideas. If we truly listen to the other person, we may see that they really have something valuable to contribute, and that their way may be more efficient, may be better, maybe cheaper, safer, whatever it is than what you had thought. So you always want to be open to other ideas. Then next, demonstrate that you're listening. And how do we do that? Well, again, give them your full attention, but you want to make eye contact. You want to look them, face to face. Try and get on the same level as them. If they're standing or sitting, don't want to stand up over them, looking down at them, but you want to make eye contact. Let them have that feeling that you're listening to them. You have no outside distractions going on that are going to take away from what they're trying to tell you. And then give feedback, very important. Once you feel that you understand what they're trying to pass on to you, give them feedback by saying, okay, so what I understood you to say was A, B, and C. Now, what does this allow the person speaking to feel? Well, they get the feeling then that you really were listening because you're relaying back to them what they said. And it also allows them to know that you understood them properly, or if there was something missed between the transition there, they can now say, no, that's not what I meant, or that's not what I said. What I said was D, E, and F. So now you're both on the same page. You have a full understanding of what it is that they're trying to get across to you. So it's important to give that feedback. And when it comes to communicating, particularly in our field and as leaders, one thing that I've found is that you get a lot more respect from people when they feel that you're listening and communicating well with them. There was recently I read a study on doctors. Now, doctors don't relate to law enforcement, but I think this study pretty much does in our day-to-day contact. But the study on that the doctors did was that doctors that had bad bedside manners had a tendency to be sued by patients almost twice as much as doctors that had a better bedside manner. So if a doctor comes in and sits there and communicates with you and listens to you, listens to your signs and symptoms, listens to what you're telling them is wrong with you, then they, kind of give you the feedback and then prescribe what the treatment is. Those doctors were sued a lot less than the doctors that just came in and said, okay, what's wrong? Okay, here's a prescription, and, I'll see you in 2 weeks. How that relates to law enforcement, kind of the same way. If we take that extra couple minutes to listen to people and truly give them feedback, then they get the feeling that we actually listen to them, and may not come into suing them, but think of how much better communication we'd have with our coworkers or with the citizens in our communities if we actually allowed them to feel that we listened to them and understood their point of view. Now, when we do that, that may not change the outcome of why we're there, but at least they have the understanding and the feeling that we actually listened to them and we cared about them as a person and wanted to try and understand their point of view before we took whatever action we were there to take, if it's a call for service or citizen contact, whatever the case may be. And as leaders, again, what is your legacy? What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want, after you retire, do you want your coworkers and people in your agency to remember you as one that never really listened, didn't care about you, or do you want your legacy to be that they were a good person, a good supervisor, a good mentor, and they always would listen to another point of view before making a judgment or before deciding on anything that was final, and kind of having the attitude of them thinking that well, it's your way or no way because you're the boss, you're the supervisor, that type of thing. And I don't think any of us want to be remembered and leave a legacy as being that type of supervisor. Probably all of us in our lifetime, in our careers, have had somebody that has acted like that. And if you think back and remember how you felt about that person and what was said about them, it probably was not what we want our legacy to be. And the last thing is, don't be afraid of change. Technology continues to change. If you look at this slide, on the upper right-hand side, you have a younger man on a computer sitting in a desk on a laptop. The left-hand side, a secretary with an old-time typewriter. Just look at how things have changed as far as that type of situation. Or down at the bottom, the old radio, police radio dispatch system with the big microphone there and having to push the button, and then on the right-hand side, the headphone and the 3 or 4 computer screens for a computer-aided dispatch system. And the message here is just don't be afraid of change when it comes to communicating. Just because you may not text much, but other people do, doesn't mean that they're wrong or that they have to bow to you. When it comes to listening, make sure we give them our full attention and pass back on to them that we are listening and it's important. And if we practice some of these things with the active listening, we're going to find that we really can become better communicators, and whoever we're interfacing with day to day, it's going to go a lot smoother. And again, it doesn't have to be just at work. It fits into any conversation, any communication you're having with whatever role you are, if it's a coworker, a spouse, a child, or just citizen contact. It's important that on both sides we are better and more effective communicators and learn how to listen, because it is what we do the most, and for most of us we do it the worst, because as I said earlier, there is no formal training for listening. A lot of times people don't stop and think about that till it comes up, and then they kind of scratch their head and think, yeah, that's right, I've never been able to go to a listening class, or no one's ever actually taught me how to listen. We have our ears, one on each side, and it's just kind of, we teach ourselves. So a lot of things to consider and think about here, but again, listening is one of the most important things that we do, and it's critical to communicating in today's society to be able to be effective leaders and to overall be effective communicators. It's going to allow us to go a lot further in our lives and in our day-to-day interactions with whoever it may be that we come across on the street. Hopefully you have been able to get something out of it. It kind of went by kind of quick. We've been doing this almost 30 minutes now. If you have any questions, please send them in to Ryan, and I'll be happy to address anything, or my contact information is here. If anybody has any questions later on, please feel free to contact me by my cell phone or my email address. And I thank everybody for participating, and have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Hank. We do have one question.
Okay.
It was asked, how does body language play into listening skills?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking it. Well, when it comes to body language, if you have arms folded, you're looking down or looking away, that's a clear-cut sign that what the person talking is saying is not important to you whatsoever. They get the impression that that you're not listening to them, that you don't care, that you think what they have to say is irrelevant or not important whatsoever. So body language does play a huge part of it. The positive body language is when you're making eye contact, you're kind of making gestures with your hands, like, oh, okay, you understand that. Your eyes go up, kind of like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. That's giving some positive body language, so the person knows that that you're truly listening to them and understanding what they're saying. But the most important thing is to verbally give them that feedback by letting them know, oh, wow, that's interesting, or I hadn't thought of that type of thing, or again, let me understand, is what you were saying this, and then they know that we're on the right page, and if not, it can be cleared up. So when the conversation is over and you go your own way, both parties know that, okay, we understood each other and we know where each other stands, and we can go from there.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hank. It doesn't look like we have any other questions right now. As you said before, if anybody has got additional questions, feel free to contact you or the ICP staff.